So this morning there are a couple of email questions. So I will read them to you. So the first one is a concentrated one-pointed state of mind is necessary? Question mark. Do we have to practice concentration? Do we need concentration in the self-inquiry? Do we need it for self-realization? This is a number of questions. Is this kind of mind helpful? Could you please share some thoughts about the contradiction that the self-realization is not possible with the mind, but still we have to use our mind at some point? Okay, so this is several questions. So let's just go through them one at a time. The first question is a concentrated one point of mind necessary? The simple answer is yes. And this also relates to some of the secondary questions. The reason I say yes is because without some discipline in the mind, the ability to keep the mind one pointed in some way, we tend to just let the mind wander, and it wanders into its old habits, into conditioning. It does not naturally wander into peace and stillness. But is concentration necessary for everyone? No, not necessarily. Some people, this is true often of people who have background in some sort of concentration training, whether it be music or um, some complex discipline of some sort, mathematics. Sometimes these individuals don't need to spend much time with concentration because they already have a developed or cultivated a concentration in the mind throughout their lives. But if you have no experience with focusing on one thing for long periods of time, then the traditional concentration practices are recommended. These practices include breathing, mindfulness of breathing, the question, who am I? And the reason these things are useful is because they focus the mind. Mind has as a primary quality something we call veiling. So what this is referring to is there's a tendency when the mind is followed habitually for there to be a quality of veiling which drops in front of the recognition of the self. And this is because the attention is moved out and has a tendency, a conditioned habit, to move out into the objects in front of it. So we're more interested in the pain in our knee, or the thoughts in our mind, or the activities, the sound that are going on, the sound that's going on outside. In other words, we're not able to just stop and to be here now in the recognition, I am aware. So in this case, concentration is necessary and important. And so we develop some sort of a concentration tool, the inquiry itself, who am I, or am I aware? Or we just simply sit and breathe and place our attention gently on the body, on some aspect of the body, but the breath is a good one because the breath goes on automatically. So if we keep bringing the attention back to the breath, soon enough, the mind will slow down. So in this case, then concentration is useful for us, gives us the space, if you will, to move into the natural space of awakened being and fall into that. Okay, so that seems to take care of the first few questions. An important question: do we need it, meaning concentration, for self realization? The simple answer is no, but some explanation might be important here. The fact of the matter is, you are already that which is aware. So, some would say you are already self realized. If you know in this moment, I am here, I exist. This is the recognition, the primary recognition of self realized understanding in the present moment. If you know I am here, now you can rest in this self aware, this self realized state, and allow everything to come and go, and eventually come to know yourself as being, consciousness, and bliss. The development of concentration, the use of the inquiry, primarily relates to penetrating this quality of the mind which says, shh, I don't know who I am. This veil falls. So these practices are around self-doubt and the lack of recognition that you are already here now as that which is aware and awake. So this is the purpose of using these kinds of things. But are they necessary for self-realization? No. You are already that. Whether you realize it, you, personality, whether you realize it or not, you are already that. This is a good thing to remember, especially when you're struggling. Could you please share some thoughts about the contradiction that self-realization is not possible with the mind, but still we have to use our mind? So this, excuse me, this relates to the explanation that I just gave. Mm. It does seem like a contradiction, but many of you have already noticed that there are lots of contradictions in spiritual life. And this is because the contradictions are continually trying to deal with the dual nature of ordinary experience, the tendency to look at things as black and white, as up or down, as good or bad. This duality creates for us the necessary practices that we undertake, whether it be mindfulness or breathing or whatever. This tendency to look at one side of the duality, and when we find dissatisfaction or we find unpleasantness in that, to shift to the other side of the duality and try to find some sense of freedom or liberation or happiness in the other side of the duality. And then so we just continually bounce back and forth, whether it's in the mind or in our habits or whatever. We bounce back and forth between one side of the duality to the other, from unpleasant to pleasant, from unpleasant to pleasant. We're trying to resolve this challenge of our own freedom. But of course, all of you know that this is not the way. The way is actually between the two, where we ask the question, what is aware of this? And we pull attention away from the objects, whether they're on one side of the duality or the other, makes no difference. We pull attention away from the object and into the heart by asking the question, who am I? Or what is aware of this? So then she asks, do we have to use our mind? Only when mind is in interference. So if we're not experiencing difficulty, if we are able, through our practice or through our natural way of being, to just be here now as this, that which is aware. If this is our ability at this point, then there's nothing else to do with the mind. To pick up the mind is to pick up the duality again. So if you're able, whether you're sitting on your cushion relaxing on your couch, walking downtown, making a meal, whatever you're doing, if you're able to just remain as this aware recognition, I am here, I am now, then there's no need to go into any kind of training program or any kind of um, engagement with the mind. From this position of I am here, I am aware, I am now, then activity just can come and go in that space. Thought can come and go in that space. Experiences can come and go in that space. But the spaciousness of being isn't disturbed. So this is the point, if you will, of practices, is only to get us to the point where we are able to simply rest as being, consciousness and bliss, and be present with whatever is here in its natural state, and to let go of whatever is here when it naturally wants to go.